Welcome friends. In this video I am going to talk about Vipreet Raj Yoga. It's a very common yoga and you must have heard about this quite a number of times. So as per this yoga, it's made up of two words. One is Vipreet and the another one is Raj Yoga, which means some kind of adversity followed by Raj Yoga, that is upliftment in life. But if we go by the old text like Brihat Prashar Hora Shastra, in that text some negative things have been written about this Raj Yoga, about this yoga, and as per Rishi Prashar, the person would suffer a lot if he has this yoga in his chart. It's an adverse yoga as per Rishi Prashar. But if we go by the other text like Uttara Kalamrit or Phal Deepika, then they have written good things about this yoga and they call it a Raj Yoga, which means that the person will go through upliftment in his life and he will have material gains also. But you cannot correlate the things which have been written in these texts individually, which means what I want to say is that in my own experience I have seen that things related to Prashar's findings and the things which have been said by Phal Deepika and Uttara Kalamrit, they both work hand in hand in a person's chart when we are studying about this yoga. So in my personal experience I have seen that the person first goes through difficulties and after that he will have material gains or some sort of gains in his life. So what are the houses which are involved in this yoga? The houses like 6th, 8th and 12th, these are involved in this yoga, and some texts have mentioned the involvement of the 3rd house also in this yoga. Reason being that these all houses are the negative houses in a person's chart and the dashas of these houses is bound to give you troubles. So when the lords of these houses like 6, 8 and 12, when they are placed in your Kendra or in your trinal houses, in those cases they will get empowered. So these houses will gain in energy and they will give you difficulties of some sort. So it is always recommended that the lords of these houses 6, 8 and 12, you can additionally add the 3rd, they should be placed amongst each other's houses and they should not be placed in the Kendra or trine. In that case the person has some good life and he will not have much difficulties during the dashas of these lords. So I'll take up all these combinations one by one and I'll explain to you with the help of some examples how to interpret these combinations. So the yoga has been defined in 3 parts. The first is the Harsha, then is the Sarla, then is the Vimla. Harsha, Sarla and Vimla. In case when there is Harsha Yoga being formed, in that case the lords of your 8th and the 12th would be posited in your 6th house. In case of the Sarla Yoga, the lords of your 6th and your 12th would be posited in your 8th house. In case of your Vimla Yoga, the lords of your 6th and your 8th would be posited in your 12th house. So let's take each scenario one by one and we'll see what it means. One more thing I like to add is that as per the logic, if the lords of these 3 houses should be placed amongst each other's houses, then as per logic these lords, if they are weak, then also some kind of Vipreet Raj Yoga is formed in a person's life, which means if the lord of 6th, 8th and 12th they are weak, or if they are debilitated, or if they are afflicted by a malefic, in that case also it will give you rise after adverse conditions. So let's take the first scenario when the lord of your 6th is placed in your 8th house. This is the Sarla Yoga being formed. So see, there is a difference of 3 houses between these 2 houses. So which means 8th house is placed 3 places away from the 6th house. So when the lord of the 6th house, which is all about difficulties, debts and court cases. It is placed in your 8th house of suddenness of events or chronicity or losses of some sort. So when it is placed in the 8th house, in that case you will see that the person, after going through some efforts, after going through the things related to the 3rd house, he will have some gains, which means the negativity of the 6th house will go into destruction by being in the 8th house, and the individual will gain out of that. So I'll just give you an example. A person's say Venus is going into his 8th house, so he may see that he'll have some kind of disease related to the face, because Taurus is being placed in the 6th house. So he may be having some disease related to the face area. It could be eyes or any area of the face, and it is becoming chronic. So the person is putting so much efforts into that the disease happens to go away altogether, and the person comes out victorious. He'll get rid of that disease permanently. So this is how he gained through this kind of combination. Okay, so if he happens to have some animosity with someone, the enemy will naturally fall into destruction, and this person, after putting in some efforts to get himself away from the enemy, he'll gain after the enemy is destroyed by being in the 8th house. So the person will gain. So this combination also will give you lot of fame and lots of sudden rise in life. So which means from the 6th house it also gives you a lot of efforts. So you are putting in your efforts by working continuously on something, day to day life you are working on something, and eventually you will see that there is sudden rise in life, because from the 8th house also comes the suddenness. So suddenly there would be a rise in life, or suddenly there would be some kind of destruction for this person, and he will rise after that. So these kind of conditions are also seen when the lords of 6th is placed in the 8th house. So in the other scenario, when the lord of the 8th house is placed in the 6th house, it will form Harsha Yoga. So in this case, the 6th house is 11 places away from the 8th house. So which means 11th house is also Upchaya, that is the growth house, and it is also the house of gains. So from the things related to the 8th house, which means from sudden chronicity, the person lands up into difficulty coming from the 6th house, and he will gain out of that. So I'll explain this with the help of an example. Suppose there is Leo in the 8th house and your son is placed in your 6th house. The person, while he is playing football, he injured his leg and he happened to have some fracture. So he is now hospitalized, and then through that hospitalization the 11th house is giving him gains. So he will gain through insurance money. Or the person is driving a vehicle, suddenly he meets with an accident, and that vehicle was pretty old, and he happened to have some insurance money coming out of that accident. So this is how the 8th and the 6th combination would work, because here the 11th house is activated. 6th is the 11th house of the 8th house. So this is how you have to study this. Now let's talk about the 6th and the 12th house. So these two houses are 7 places away from each other, and the 7th house is your Marka house, that is the killer house. So whenever the lords of 6th and 12th are placed between each other's houses, the person will be able to destroy the evils of the 6th house and the 12th house, and he will gain out of that. So let's take an example. Suppose the 6th lord is placed in your 12th house. So from the 6th house comes healings also, comes difficulties also, comes court cases also. So if the 6th lord is in your 12th house, it means you are expending your energies onto things of your 6th house, and you are gaining out of it. It could be in the charts of some lawyers or some doctors, because they are expending their energies, they are working on it, and they are able to kill the things related to the sixth house. So people who are coming with difficulties, that also comes from the sixth house. So they are meeting people with difficulties and they are putting their energies from the 12th house and they are able to kill those things. So they are able to kill the difficulties of those people. They are able to kill the illnesses of those people. So this is how this works, and they will have name out of that. The lawyer is getting a name that he is a very good lawyer. The doctor is getting a name that he is a very good doctor. He is able to destroy the diseases of his patients. So this is how the sixth lord in the 12th house works. Now what happens when the 12th lord is placed in your sixth house? So again this will destroy the evils of your 12th house. Suppose you have been putting up your time and efforts onto some kind of court case. Okay, so this is your efforts and energies into something coming from the sixth house and you are gaining out of it. Suppose a person is falling sick and he is getting hospitalized because of that. 12th house is hospitalization and the 6th house is illness. So he got hospitalized for his illness and out of that he gained. He came out healthy. He became much more healthier. Or he had put in his energies into the things coming from the 12th house and he gained. He became more strong from the 6th house. So this is how this combination will work. Now going to the 8th house and the 12th house. So the 8th house and 12th, they are trinal to each other. From the 8th, the 12th is 5th, and from the 12th, the 8th is 9th. So when the 8th lord is placed in your 12th house, it means that the person, after going through some research work or after going through some chronicity, will gain something as his talent. He'll learn something out of it and that will become his strength. Okay, so suppose your 8th lord is in your 12th house and the person happens to meet with some kind of accident, and during that accident the person injures his left hand. So he is not able to work with his left hand anymore, and he incurred loss coming from the 12th house, and suddenness came from the 8th house. Now the 5th house is also activated. So the person will become so talented that he learned how to work with his one hand, right? The other scenario could be the person he could be researching on something and he's really putting in his hard work into that research, and after that he has learned something. Okay, so I have seen this combination in the charts of doctors who have their 8th lord posited in their 12th house, and during the dasha they were able to learn something out of their serious studies coming from the 8th house, and they attained some kind of talent related to healings which is coming from the 12th house, and they attained name after that. So the negativities coming from the 8th and 12th, or the, you can say, hard work or suddenness or research work coming from the 8th and 12th will give you a rise, will give you a name of some sort. Now let's take the example of the 12th lord sitting in your 8th house. Here the 9th house will also be activated because it is 9 places away from the 12th house. So in this case the example would be, suppose your 12th lord is in the 8th house. The person has been putting in his money into some kind of research work and he is really working hard on that, and he is not able to see the results, so he is pretty disappointed. Suddenly he happens to meet somebody who sees his talent, who recognizes his research, and he says, wow, you are just amazing, you have really found something very substantial and I find this of use for my own work. Why don't you work with me? And in this case he will see that he got some opportunity which changed his luck altogether. So the other scenario could be this person's loss, this person's expenditure became his loss and thereby he gained. So this case I have seen in one chart. The person was undergoing divorce and his 12th lord was placed in his 8th house. So when I saw his chart, I told him that divorce is certain, because the lady was asking for alimony, and the dasha of the 12th lord was very near. It was in his 8th house. So it showed that this person's expenditure would be the gain of his spouse, and thereby he'll get rid of his spouse. So he lost his spouse through divorce, and he had to give money as part of alimony, and thereby he got separated, and his luck rose, and he became very happy after that, and he got married after that. So some kind of negative condition will give you some kind of relief or some kind of gain after that, is how you have to read this yoga. So friends, I hope this video will come handy to you for your readings. If you have liked this video, I would request you to subscribe and press a like button. In my forthcoming videos, I'll come up with some interesting topics. I'll see you. Until then, bye friends.